Beijing is not going to take this kindly. Well, what does Joe Biden do when he comes in with a fait accompli in some senses?
Yes, Beijing has already voiced its anger. It is interesting timing as the door closes on the Trump administration. I think the question is really what Biden will do with these loosening of diplomatic contacts. It's really the ball is in his court actually on this. I've heard commentary around it being a sort of a Trump administration attempt to almost steer the successor's foreign policy and relationship with China, but I would view it more as a sort of card that Biden can keep in his back pocket to utilize. The broader agenda on relations with China has been set by the wider trade war and the competition between Trump and Biden in the presidential campaign to outdo each other on being tough on China. The Republicans and probably Trump out of office is really going to hold Biden's feet to the fire on just how hard he's going to be on China.
Steve, absolutely. And the thing is, the view of China is a bipartisan one now. And the point being there that perhaps this, as you mentioned, may be in his keep this card in his back pocket, as it were. But tell me, I mean, is it going to be a change of style rather than substance in this relationship that Washington has with Beijing under Joe Biden?
I think it will actually be a little bit of a change of both. Style-wise, I think you are going to see at the sort of very macro level of things, of like international statesmanship, particularly surrounding climate change, you're going to see a point of cooperation and collaboration, and I think that's a very positive thing. I mean, Biden has said day one he's going to rejoin the Paris Agreement. I think China is obviously going out very much with a global environmentalist position as well. That's a point of contact for them both, which I think Xi Jinping and Joe Biden will want to play up. Behind that, the substance will change, I think, somewhat in terms of if you like, the fights that the Biden administration will pick with China will become much more at the reputational human rights end of the spectrum versus the, to be honest, quite relatively ineffectual trade spats that the Trump administration has picked. And that actually, I think the Chinese administration fears more. And it fears it more because that kind of approach, Biden's attempt, if you like, to dust down America's reputation for global leadership, I think really scares a China that's attempting to assert itself as a superpower. They see that far more threatening than what Trump was doing.
I'm just wondering, when you talk about global leadership, which of course was absent throughout 2020, have the last 4 years dented U.S. credibility, dented the way U.S. allies view the U.S. as a superpower?
Unfortunately, I think the Pax Americana, if you like, has been damaged by the past 4 years. It's been damaged in a number of different ways. Obviously, reliability towards allies has been damaged, but also predictability as well. A Biden administration, I think, will be quietly welcomed by most statesmen and women in the G7. But I think what's worrying, and particularly for many governments in Asia, is what comes after Biden, when American institutions can be sort of brought really to the edge of desecration, as we've just seen in the past few days, and international treaties have been. If not undermined, then certainly treated with a degree of disrespect. There's going to be a worry in many of America's allies' capitals about what comes next. It's going to take, in my opinion, it's going to take a few more presidential cycles before the rest of the world gets comfortable with America as being a reliable global leader once again.
Steve, looking at the risks in 2021, COVID-19, there's so much hope pinned on the vaccine, but so far, countries are already struggling to meet the timeline for the vaccinations. What are the risks when it comes to COVID-19? How may that impact the US, the EU, and emerging countries?
Very good question, and I was very interested to hear, earlier just how upbeat markets are right now, and the pattern seems to be an expectation that we're going to have vaccine rollout, economic rebound, return to pre-COVID levels of GDP growth, quote unquote, normalization. I think that's slightly short-termist, to be honest. We're sort of predicting, if you like, a long COVID, where on the economic side of things, a huge amount of treasure has been spent by governments globally on trying to mitigate the economic impact of the pandemic. That's going to have a significant drag effect on some economies, and you're probably not going to see a recovery in some markets until 22, 23. On the social side of things, I don't think it's really been spoken about much. But I think actually some of the quote unquote success stories in pandemic management, the Chinas, the Taiwans, the Singapores, the Vietnams, they are going to actually, I think, face a little bit of struggle in terms of social normalization, because I think what we're going to see is not an end to this virus through vaccination, but if you like, a tamping down of it. And societies where they've basically gone out politically and said, we've got it completely under control, we've almost eradicated it through policy, they are going to have to reintroduce their constituencies back to the idea that they're going to have to live with this. And there's going to be low levels of, if they want to open their borders again, they're going to have to accept a background of COVID virus in the years ahead. And that could be a difficult sell.
Steve, quickly, risk to business. You've got 5 points you made on it. I just want to highlight one of them, which is go green or go bust. Yes, it does what it says on the tin. If you're in business, and this is reflected with conversation with my clients, the number one topic after COVID recovery is really getting on the right side of history as far as the climate crisis is concerned. What do you do? How do you avoid the reputational risks? Where do you position yourself? Do you set your own zero emissions goals? That's going to be the overarching conversation in a lot of corporates in the years ahead. Never mind this year. And the relationship between companies and government, companies and society is fundamentally changing. And if you want to succeed in a commercial sense in the years ahead, you've really got to understand that the climate emergency is going to come at you like a freight train, and your company policy and your positioning is going to be so important if you're going to survive this change.